There's a Mastiff that has guarded the highlands of Sardinia for over 2,000 years. A dog so deeply embedded in the island's culture that even ancient Romans wrote about it, yet nearly vanished entirely in the 20th century, and was only pulled back from the edge by a handful of dedicated breeders who refused to let it die. This is the Dogo Sardo, and most people have never heard of it. However, it really is a special breed. Sardinia is not like the rest of Italy. It never really was to begin with. The island sits in the middle of the Mediterranean, but it developed its own language, its own customs, and its own livestock culture almost completely in isolation. The terrain is rugged, mountains, plateaus, dense macchia scrub. The sheep flocks that define the island's economy for millennia needed serious protection. Not just from wolves, from bandits too. The Sardinians bred a dog to match that environment. Big, fearless, deeply bonded to its flock and its people. Suspicious of strangers to the point of aggression. This was not a pet. This was a working weapon in fur. The Dogo Sardo, also known as the Dogo Sardesco, the Mastino Sardo, or simply the Sardinian Mastiff, belongs to the broader family of Mediterranean Molosser dogs. The same ancient bloodlines that gave us the Neapolitan Mastiff, the Cane Corso, the Cimarron Uruguayo. But the Sardo developed its own distinct form, shaped by centuries of island isolation and a very specific job. Ancient writers, including Gratius and Nemesianus, referenced large Sardinian dogs used in both hunting and guarding. These were not companion animals. They were respected tools of survival. The Dogo Sardo is a large, powerfully built Molosser-type breed. Males typically stand between 23 and 27 inches at the shoulder and can weigh upwards of 90 pounds to 130 pounds roughly. The head is broad and slightly rounded, with a strong jaw, a well-defined stop, and a black or self-colored nose depending on coat. The muzzle is shorter than many Mastiff types, but not as compressed as the more extreme brachycephalic breeds. These dogs could breathe easily. As working livestock dogs they had to. The coat is short and dense. Colouring ranges across brindle, fawn, grey and black, sometimes with white markings on the chest and feet. The overall impression is of compact, functional power. Nothing ornamental. No exaggeration, with each physical feature earned its place through generations of actual use. The expression is alert and serious. This is not a dog that wags at strangers, but they read the environment constantly and make confident decisions accordingly. To understand the Dogo Sardo, you have to understand what Sardinian pastoralism actually demanded. Shepherds on the island ran transhumance routes, seasonal migrations moving flocks between lowland winter pastures and highland summer grazing. These journeys could take days. The dogs had to cover rough ground, work independently of human instruction for long stretches, and make judgment calls about threats in real time. The Sardinian Mastiff did two jobs. As a livestock guardian, it stayed with the flock and deterred predators through presence and confrontation. As a property guardian, it protected the farmstead, the family, the animals, the stores. It had to be capable of genuine aggression when the situation demanded it, but stable enough not to be a liability around the shepherd's children. This dual function is what shaped the breed's temperament. Calm in familiar company. Immovable with strangers. Not a dog for everyone, but it's not designed to be. And when wolves weren't the threat, bandits were. Sardinia had a long and deeply rooted culture of livestock rustling. And a flock left unguarded overnight was a flock you might not see again. The Dogo Sardesco wasn't just expected to bark, but expected to hold the line. In that context, a dog that was merely large wasn't enough. You needed a dog that was large, intelligent, and genuinely difficult to intimidate, as your livelihood was at stake all day and every day. The 20th century nearly finished the Dogo Sardo completely. The same forces that gutted so many working landrace breeds hit the island hard. Traditional pastoralism declined. rural depopulation accelerated after World War II. Crossbreeding with German Shepherds and other imported dogs diluted the gene pool. The purebred Sardo became increasingly rare, increasingly obscure, as many landrace breeds do. By the 1980s, the breed was functionally unknown outside of Sardinia. And even within the island, genuine examples were difficult to find. It was not officially recognized by any major kennel club. No breed standard existed. The dogs that remained were concentrated in isolated rural communities, kept by the few shepherding families who still valued the old way of doing things. There's something quietly devastating about that image. A dog with 2,000 years of history, reduced to a handful of animals scattered across remote farmsteads, kept alive almost by accident. No registry, no organized breeding program, just working men in the mountains who remembered what a real Sardo looked like and refused to let the line die completely. The recovery of the Dogo Sardo is a story about stubborn and dedicated people. In the 1980s and 1990s, a small number of Italian enthusiasts and cynologists began documenting the remaining population, tracing bloodlines, and attempting to establish a coherent breed standard. The work was painstaking. The gene pool was narrow. The risk of overcorrecting, of breeding toward a show standard rather than a working standard, was real and ever-present. The Italian Kennel Club, the ENCI, provisionally recognized the breed in 2013. That recognition was a landmark moment, but it came with complications. A narrow gene pool means inbreeding risk. Exhibition pressure means aesthetic drift. The breeders who care most about the Sardinian Mastiff are acutely aware of what happened to other Molossas when kennel club politics overtook working function. Look at the English Mastiff. Look at the Neapolitan. Both transformed almost beyond recognition by show ring priorities over the course of a few decades. The debate within the Dogo Sardo community is ongoing. How much standardization is too much? How do you preserve working temperament when the actual work no longer exists at scale? These are questions the breed's advocates are wrestling with right now, and the answers will determine what the dog looks like 50 years from now. The Dogo Sardo is not famous. It probably never will be, at least not in the way the Cane Corso or the Rottweiler is famous. The numbers are small, the breeders are few. The dog is emphatically not for first-time owners. Its independence, its territorial instinct, and its suspicion of strangers demand an experienced hand and serious socialization from an early age. But that's exactly why it matters. The Dogo Sardo is a direct line to 2,000 years of island working culture. It is a biological artifact of a specific place, a specific landscape, and a specific way of life that is rapidly disappearing. Every other Molossa on that island that didn't make it is gone forever. This one survived. Barely. But it survived. And that's worth knowing about. If you've never heard of the Dogo Sardo before today, now you have. And if breeds like this one fascinate you, the rare, the overlooked, the almost lost, then you're in exactly the right place. I've put together an ebook covering some of the most remarkable, extinct and endangered dog breeds in history, and you can grab it through the link in the description below. It's the kind of deep dive that doesn't exist anywhere else. Subscribe if you want more stories like this. There are plenty more where this came from, and take a look at my ebook on the extinct Mastiffs of history, linked in the description below. Also, I'd just like to give a huge shout out and credit to Leonardo Concas for the amazing footage, and I've also linked his channel in the description below. See you next time.